7, contact tower 128.15.
Caution, caution. Manual, fuel, manual, fuel.
I'm John Goglia.
I'm Greg Fife.
And I'm Todd Curtis.
And we are the Flight Safety Detectives.
Between us, we have over a century of aviation accident investigation and safety experience to draw on as we discuss issues that affect all of us.
So we are qualified to share our perspectives on accidents and incidents and what can be learned from them for the future.
We're proud to say that we have two sponsors that really relate to the topic of aviation safety: the Professional Aviation Maintenance Association, or PAMA, and Avemco Insurance. Later on in the show, we'll tell you how you can get a 5% discount on your insurance just for listening to the show.
We don't just dissect the official reports. In every episode, we identify safety issues and take the mystery out of accident investigations.
So maybe pilots and their planes can have safer flights ahead.
Well, hello, Todd.
Hello, John.
Here we are again, just the two of us. Greg is still engaged, so we have to handle this ourselves. And I see where you have really pulled out an interesting event.
Indeed. One of the things we've done several times, including this year, is go to Oshkosh to AirVenture to see all sorts of aircraft. And the type of aircraft I sort of walked by quickly are the more unusual aircraft, or at least unusual for me. Weight shift aircraft, autogyros. And I came across an accident, a report from the NTSB, that involved a weight shift aircraft, which, again, getting back to AirVenture this year, there was a big reveal from the FAA about how they're changing the rules with light sport aircraft to broaden the appeal of this for pilots. Now, this particular accident involved an Evolution Revo model light sport aircraft, which is I'm not sure the exact term for it. It is a cross between a hang glider and a motorcycle. It's an aerial trike that is a two-seater. It has an instructor in the back, has a student in the front for dual instruction. And this was a routine introduction flight down in Zephyr Hills, Florida, which is coincidentally the home of the manufacturer of this particular model aircraft. And shortly after takeoff, the aircraft rapidly lost altitude and crashed. And those of you watching the video version of this are seeing a video of a security cam footage of the last few seconds of flight. And as you can see, very, very high angle, very, very high speed. Although it looks like it's on fire, looking closely at it, I don't believe it was on fire in flight. And in fact, the accident report didn't state it was on fire in flight, but clearly you can see from that video, once it impacted the ground, there was a bit of a firebolt, and unfortunately, both people on board were killed. And the investigation revealed that the cause of the crash was fairly straightforward. There is a particular cable that is on this aircraft that's used to anchor the wing to the rest of the aircraft, called a haulback cable. And it had to be installed for this airplane to have structural integrity with respect to the wing. Because of the design of this aircraft, one of the things it's allowed to do fairly easily is to disconnect a few parts of it, fold the wings up for road transport. Well, there was enough integrity in the wing to get airborne. And at some point in the flight, about 5 to 10 minutes into the flight, the wings folded back and the aircraft, as you can see, went straight down. And the investigation, although it was one that was recently released a few weeks ago, and it has a public docket, after reading it fairly carefully, it still left us with a few questions, some fairly basic questions. And just to start the basic questions, and you've seen this looking at the not only this accident, but we looked at manuals for the wing, manuals for the aircraft itself. This company had a fairly extensive checklist, and it's unclear to us from reading the report exactly how this cable that was not connected was put in that position. Let me just add this as an aircraft that was manufactured about 10 years ago. It was 9 years old at the time of the accident. And it's unclear what was happening before this flight. Was it coming out of maintenance? Was it coming out of the hangar? Was it coming out of another demonstration flight? We just don't know.
You know, the that checklist for assembly is one of the most detailed checklists I've seen. They really explain every single step. So they've gone, the manufacturer or whoever designed the checklist really has done an excellent job of trying to convey information to the people assembling this. Now, I think I read near this guy was a mechanic. Did you see that?
I did see that. I looked up his record on the FAA registry, and he was not only a private pilot, he was certified as an instructor for light sport aircraft and certified as a mechanic for light sport aircraft as well.
He's not really a full A&P, he's a repairman. But that, you know, attention to detail is a mandatory skill for maintenance people. And although sometimes it's difficult to drive that point home to all people I talk to, mechanics that I talk to, sometimes don't like to hear that, but you got to pay attention to detail, and obviously this guy didn't. Now, one of the problems with repairmen, the FAA doesn't have a lot of standards for the education and training portion of repairmen in light sport category airplanes. So, in fact, the duty and responsibilities that they carry are usually not even spelled out anywhere. You know, like they are for a A&P mechanic has to take a general test before he can move forward to take the test for either his airframe or his power plant certificates. And that's not required down at the sport aviation level. So there's some holes in here. And I can remember when we started the sport aviation, and the whole purpose was to promote more pilots into the business and to put more fun back into flying, because flying regular Cessna airplanes, it used to be fun, and now difficult because of the air traffic control and all the levels of restrictions that puts on them. So unless you live out in the rural areas where everything, the airspace is called G, meaning it's pretty free of restrictions. Unless you're in G airspace, you spend more time thinking about the rules and regulations than you do about having fun.
And I'll have to admit that this looks like a fun aircraft to fly. Now, it's not the kind of aircraft I've ever flown, although in my youth, I did do some hang glider flying in Southern California when I was young and bold. And that's one of the things that attracted me to this particular accident, because the wing that you see in this weight shift aircraft is a hang glider type wing. And a weight shift aircraft, basically what that means is that the control is in part from changing the relationship of the wing to the airflow, as you see in some of these pictures where you have this bar in front of the pilot. And in this particular aircraft, it has a couple of loops to that bar, so the instructor sitting behind whoever's in the front seat can also control this. You push it away or pull it back to you or maneuver it around in order to change the center of gravity, the airflow, etc., to fly this aircraft. And from personal experience, my literally few minutes of airtime in a hang glider, it's something that it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's not extremely difficult. Now, the manufacturer, which was co-located at the same town where this accident took place, we went to their website and they had a very extensive background of what it takes to fly. You know, they're inviting people to get involved and get trained. And it takes about, they said, about anywhere around 20 hours roughly to get to a point where a brand new student could get to the point where they solo in an aircraft. And that is not too much different from my early days flying. When I first started flying a Cessna back in the 70s, I was about hour 20 before I got to my first solo flight. So even though it is in many ways a simpler aircraft than a basic four-seater aircraft, it's still something where it takes time. And I think this manufacturer and the people around this manufacturer were serious about not just throwing things out there for people to start flying without getting some training and without getting some knowledge. And like John said, what little we've seen of their checklist, they're pretty good checklists. What we've seen of their documentation, there's plenty of documentation. It just comes back to the question, what happened in this situation?
And unfortunately, the report doesn't give us any information in that area. And I'm surprised that the NTSB has not taken on a lot of these events involving this class of airplanes. Originally, they were not going to take these on, and then they decided to take these on because it has a potential of having very many accidents because of the level of expertise of the people that are operating this piece of equipment, these types of equipment. So I will go back and find out what happened and why the NTSB is changing at this period of time where the resources of the NTSB are severely strained. They haven't had a very good budget for a long time. So when you stagnate a budget with inflation going pretty heavily, that's like having a budget cut. So they're in the midst of having some adjustments themselves. So we'll have to run that trap line and see what the latest is on that.
We're going to take a short break now to meet one of Avemco's employees from their Frederick, Maryland office.
What's the best part of this job?
I would say just the amount of knowledge that I've been able to gather kind of about the GA industry in general. In the time that I've worked here, I feel like I've learned so much just from speaking with people on the phone, doing my everyday tasks in my job. We were able to do a ground school with a local CFI, which was super insightful. We went through the whole 9 hours. I felt like I've learned so much.
Have you had an opportunity to fly the simulator you have here in the office?
Yes, I flew, I want to say we did at least 2 hours, I think, and didn't crash, did some successful takeoffs and landings. That's a good local pattern. So it was very cool to kind of get some insight into what our customers are doing, on a day-to-day basis, the training they're doing.
So with that knowledge, did that give you a better understanding when you're talking to a prospective client?
Absolutely. Yeah. I would
what
say,
their needs are?
Yes. I feel a lot more confident speaking to people because I kind of understand where they're coming from, the types of aircraft they're discussing, the types of training that we're discussing in terms of, getting training discounts on there, asking, have you got your private certificate? Have you completed the ground school portion? What have you done? So that's been, I would say, very helpful.
And now, back to the Flight Safety Detectives.
A little message for our audience out there. This is the first time we've done a light sport aircraft event. And aviation is a very diverse community of all sorts of aircraft, all sorts of situations. And that's why we do it, because we want to be inclusive, get more people involved, and especially folks who might want to sponsor the Flight Safety Detectives. This episode is made possible by those sponsors. These are companies that believe in safer skies like we do. And if your business is like that, and you serve pilots, air crews, anyone in the aviation community, we should talk. Sponsorship puts your brand in front of engaged viewers and listeners, helping us continue to bring you the stories and insights that make aviation safer for everyone. Email us today at fsdsponsors@gmail.com, and we can get started with a conversation.
Since we're on the email side, later this month on the 26th, we're going to be doing a live session with all of us to talk about issues. And we will also be picking off emails. So if any of our listeners have anything burning issues that they would like to have an explanation of, please email us. And we're just going to go down the list and read emails and also talk to people on the web for live discussions about aviation issues in general, accidents in particular. So please participate. We think this is the next step in the process of trying to help people not make mistakes when they're flying. I can't emphasize enough the frustration that all of us that are associated with this process, this show, experience when we see these accidents that are preventable because somebody just had a mental lapse of some kind. And then to see them over and over again with other members. You know, I view us all as we are our brother's keeper. And it's just painful to see that, you know, new pilots, old pilots, just repeating the mistakes of people before us. I mean, our accident rate would be a hell of a lot lower if we could reduce the repeats. And we're doing our best to try to keep that word out there, but it's not easy. Not easy.
And one of the challenges we're going to face in the years to come, as we stated before, the FAA is changing the rules with light sport aircraft. Starting this year and through next year, they will expand the kinds of aircraft that will be included under light sport aircraft. And without getting into the details, light sport aircraft is something that allows people to fly aircraft, including aircraft that traditionally were not light sport aircraft, with a minimum of requirements. Now, you would still have to have basic medical requirements and that sort of thing, but it's the kind of thing that will open up aviation for other people. And when you have an accident like this with a light sport aircraft, which had as a passenger apparently someone who had zero time, at least there was no time listed in the NTSB report, we're assuming this was a person taking an introductory flight or a demonstration flight. You know, any flight has risk, but they don't have to be excessive risk. And part of our job is to be very clear and very open about these are the risks that happen. Now, can it be prevented? The issue I have is that reading this report, reading the ancillary information in the public docket, there's not quite enough there for me to have a takeaway. For example, they said there was a particular cable they call the haulback cable that has to be connected in one part of the aircraft. There was a picture of the wreckage that had the hook, and it had the place where the hook should have gone. But there's nothing in the report, nothing in the public docket that tells me, for example, where on the airplane this hook was, where on the airplane this connector was. What part of the process was this likely not done? Was it done during the routine pre-flight before they took off? Or was it done earlier when the aircraft is being put together? And when I say put together, this aircraft is designed to be broken down somewhat into a more portable form. That you can put it on a trailer and drive it from here to there rather than fly it from one point to another, which makes it more convenient, makes it more flexible, and frankly makes it easier and cheaper to own an aircraft long term because you may not have to rent hangar space or do other things that you have to do for a larger aircraft. But still, if this is something that people want to do, and that the FAA is doing its bit to promote, it would help if the NTSB did its job as an independent agency to give the flying community something that they can run with.
Yep, age-old problem, not enough resources to do the job that you're assigned to. So, well, with that, Todd, I think we've covered what we can with this event. You can have the second to the last word.
Well, the second to last word is going to be a little bit more extensive because, again, what I'm really concerned with, not really concerned, I'm really looking forward to it. Light sport aircraft is going to open up. It's going to open up in a way that wasn't really possible until the rules were changed. And here's an example of a rule that will be changed. The airplane I fly on a regular basis, a Cessna 172, was not considered a light sport aircraft before the rule change. After the rules fully take effect, it will be considered a light sport aircraft, which means there are a lot of people out there who were not considering flying those sorts of airplanes because they didn't want to do the full event of going in and get a private pilot license, etc. But they might be very interested in flying something like a Cessna, which is a larger aircraft. They might feel more comfortable in it. It's available all over the country. And there are many, many people in that community, not just Cessna, but other small aircraft. It can be up to a four-seater aircraft. But one of the things about light sport aircraft is you have to be aware of the rules. Light sport aircraft says you can fly a four-seater, but you can still have only at most two people in the aircraft. So one of the downsides of what I see with the rules changing is that people might think, well, I'm allowed to fly the aircraft. It has four seats in it. Why can't I put four people into it? there's no one from the FAA looking over your shoulder. In fact, the people you fly with at that airport might not think twice about you going to the airplane with 4 people because it's a Cessna 172. 4 people can fit in it, and you don't have cops on the tarmac saying, "Hey, buddy, come over here. Let me see your pilot's license. Are you allowed to fly this plane with this number of people?" Now, the flying community is such where if you appear to be playing by the rules, no one's going to go out of their way to call you on it, especially the FAA. So my second to last word is, if you're flying, no matter how complex the aircraft, no matter how many years you've been flying that aircraft, the basics still apply. If there's a checklist, make sure it's followed. If you're flying something for the first time or the 500th time, do the common sense things. Follow the rules such as they are. Listen to any safety recommendations that are out there, and fly within your own capabilities.
Well, with that, Todd, I'll just give a very abbreviated last word because you covered a lot of it. But if you're going to go flying, pre-plan your trip very well. Make sure you watch the weather here, there, and everywhere in between. The pre-flight, this accident that killed 2 people clearly had its origins in not doing a checklist, not doing a robust pre-flight inspection. And after you get in the air, make sure you put your head on a swivel because we are sharing our airspace with these powered hang gliders. I'll make it simple. It's a sport aviation group. We're sharing the skies with them. And, you got to see them to get out of the way. You can't rely upon them as always seeing you and getting out of the way. So see and avoid is a big piece of all flying. So please pay attention. Don't take anything for granted, and please fly safely.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. We really value all of our listeners and subscribers. Our podcast gets ranked by you. So if you like this, give us 5 stars inside your podcast platform.
We want to keep the conversation going with you. So we'd love for you to engage with us on our social media channels. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, YouTube.
You can email the show at flightsafetydetectives@gmail.com. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, we're working on growing this channel, and it really helps if you all comment. So please do that. We read them all.
And be sure to subscribe.
Without the right insurance, you're Sierra Oscar Lima. Since 1961, Avemco Insurance Company has been known as the approachable experts of general aviation insurance. No other insurance company connects you directly to an aviation underwriter, giving you more flexibility, personalized service, and easy-to-read policies customized for you and your flying. Call 888-879-0389 for a free quote, or visit avemco.com/flightsafety. And don't forget to tell them you're a listener of our podcast and save 5%.
That's it for this episode of the Flight Safety Detectives. Until the next episode, fly safe.